Chris Mannix from Sports Illustrated, just fresh off the Tyson Fury-Usyk fight in Saudi Arabia, which I do want to get to, because, we've got a little thing for the fight game here.
Man, that was a flight, let me tell you. 15 hours from Qatar.
Now, so I know Sports Illustrated isn't exactly flush with money to tell me they gave you a good seat.
But this was, I called it for DAZN, so they covered that. And yes, contractually, up front, Qatari Airlines business class, not bad. Is that where Jennifer Aniston's sitting at the bar? No, not that cool. I don't remember. It was
Did you get a shower?
No, because it's one Ambien and good night for me, and then that covers at least like 8 hours of the flight.
Did you fly out of Boston?
No, I flew out of New York. I was there for the Knicks, their Game 5, I think it was. Stayed a couple extra days and flew out of there.
Okay.
So,
like I said, I do want to get it on the fight later. First of all, the question at hand. You can only have one guy. Who do you want, Jason Tatum or Anthony Edwards?
Jason Tatum right now, gap's closing, though, considerably. I think Edwards probably a better overall two-way player. I think Tatum's offense is a hair above him right now. Like, I put it this way. Next year, if you're forecasting, like, the MVP bout, Tatum was 6th this year. Edwards, I forget where he was, but he wasn't there. I think the usual suspects will once again be at the top of the ballot. Jokic, Giannis, Luka, Shea. Tatum, I think Brunson might fall off. I think Edwards could pass Tatum next year because I think he's now got the attention of everybody in the NBA, and I think he could leap him on the MVP ballot.
But you're still Tatum. Why?
Tatum, I like size, a little bit more. I think Tatum's a better defender than people give him credit for. He's not. I think Edwards is better, but I think Tatum uses length really well. I just like bigger scoring guys more than I like a little bit smaller scoring guys.
What about the mindset? The intangibles.
I mean, they're both kind of killers. Look, Tatum catches a lot of grief for not being, perceived to be kind of the fourth quarter scorer, that other superstars on his level are. He really, frankly, has not got a lot of opportunities this year. They have one of the greatest, point differentials in league history, so it hasn't been a lot of close games. I think game on the line, coin flip. Both those guys can make plays.
Okay. Do you think it's unfair that people are putting Anthony Edwards in that category and the Timberwolves in that category?
No, Timberwolves are really good.
Are you surprised they beat Denver?
Yes, shocked. Incredibly shocked. If you had given me, 5-1 odds that Minnesota was going to come back from a 3-2 deficit and beat Denver, I would have said, hell no, I'll give you 20-1 that they couldn't do it. It just seemed like after Game 5 they were poised to fold. To their credit, they did. They absolutely kicked the crap out of Denver in Game 6. And, coming back and outscoring Denver 60-37 in the second half of Game 7, that was a team that arrived right there in that moment.
So what happened?
Well, first of all, I think Rudy Gobert, another guy that catches a lot of grief, was awesome in the second half. I mean, he had 8 points in the fourth quarter, 5 rebounds, had a turnaround jump shot that I've never seen him make. But more importantly, he made, defensive plays. He was the great defensive player that we've seen him be throughout the course of his career. I mean, that is a guy, whether it's Draymond Green or some of the guys from inside the NBA, they like to beat him down, right? They like to slap him around because, look, he's not the greatest one-on-one defender in the NBA, and he is perceived as a little bit soft, but Minnesota does not get to this conference finals unless Rudy Gobert is as good as he was in the fourth.
Okay, Chris Mannix joining us here from Hurricanes, obviously of Sports Illustrated. You see him on NBC Sports Boston. If you're a Celtics fan right now, are you supremely confident or a little bit nervous?
Supremely confident. Look, Indiana was kind of gifted this path to the finals. We've talked about the Celtics kind of getting, you get
how
Miami.
Is Indy gifted?
Because they got Milwaukee, and Milwaukee had no Giannis, no Dame. They got, this past round, they got the Knicks.
Missed one game.
Huh?
I think Damon.
No, he missed a couple. And he was
one or two. Yeah, but anyway, go ahead.
Either way, after game 1, he was a fraction of himself. When the games he did play, just wasn't the same guy because he had that same, calf/Achilles problem that seems like the entire league has right now. They got that bit of a gift there, and even if Dame was playing, no Giannis is a big deal. Then they get the Knicks, who are like a mash unit. OG goes out early. No Mitchell Robinson, no all those guys, and they still needed 13 games to get to the conference finals. I think they're very much a one-way team, even though they're better defensively since Siakam came on board. It's pretty basic, guys. You slow down Tyrese Halliburton, you win the series. Mm-hmm. You win, and you might win in 4 games. The Celtics, they've done it before. One of the games that Halliburton played in for Indiana. He had like 20, I think it was the December game. 26 points, like 10 assists, 12 rebounds. Phenomenal game for them. The other 3 games he played in, he averaged like 12 and a half points. So the Celtics know how to slow this guy down. They are uniquely equipped to slow this guy down with all their great defensive guards. You stop him, you stop the Indiana Pacers. The Knicks proved that last round. The games that Halliburton had clunkers, they got beat, and they got beat pretty bad in most of those games. You do that, you win, and I think they're going to do that in this series.
So how do you do it? Is it as simple as ball pressure, get on him?
It's ball pressure, it's switching. Like, you don't want to let the guy get downhill. He's really good when he gets downhill because then he can not only will he score, but he opens things up for the rest of his teammates with his kick-out pass. And they're a pretty good kind of corner three-point shooting team. You just keep pressuring him. Like, the Celtics will switch everything. When Horford's out there, he'll step out on him. They'll do these Jaylen Brown switches, Tatum switches. They're just equipped to do this. Against bigger teams, I'd be more concerned because the Celtics, their depth, I don't love it. But against this team, I do like their chances.
My question is really about the championship. Are you confident in the championship, or are you nervous about the championship?
Way more confident than I was 2 days ago. When Denver was still in it. I was worried about the Celtics' ability to beat Denver because, again, Denver's big.
Okay, well, is it Minnesota big?
Minnesota's big, but they're not experienced, right? And I think that matters. Like, the Celtics, one of the things that tripped them up in the 2022 finals was they weren't experienced. They played Golden State, and Golden State, among many other reasons, including Steph Curry, had an experience edge in that series. Minnesota's going to come in there with no experience, right? I don't think anybody on that team has been to an NBA Finals. Mike Conley's the only guy that's been to a conference final. So if they get through Dallas, and by the way, aren't we all rooting for Dallas? Like the Kyrie storyline, aren't we all rooting for that?
I'd rather have Minnesota.
Me too.
No, God, no. I'd want Dallas.
No.
Who cares?
No, let me tell you, I keep talking about how...
That's why I got to listen to baby Celtics fans complain about Kyrie.
No, it's just a fun narrative. It's like...
No, Tatum v. Anthony Edwards, much more...
Well, look, if you're a Celtics fan, but if you're a Celtics fan, you want Dallas. Because just like you're equipped to beat Indiana, you're also equipped to defend Dallas, right? Because Dallas' entire offense...
No, well, you asked me what I want. I know what Celtics fans want.
Okay, but Minnesota... the Celtics should beat Minnesota. There's no excuses if they lose to Minnesota. That's off the table. But Minnesota is equipped to beat Boston. You saw what they've done to teams throughout this playoffs. They have dispatched, Anthony Edwards, Jaden McDaniels, Nickeil Alexander-Walker. These are elite defensive players on elite wings. The Celtics offense is built around Tatum and Brown. So you're going to have to face Alexander-Walker, McDaniels, Edwards, on those guys who have the ability individually to make them inefficient. So for that reason, I will take Luka defending Tatum. I will take Tim Hardaway Jr. defending Brown. That's why this series, I think, is great for Boston, because Siakam, he's had some good numbers against Tatum and Brown in the past, mostly with Toronto. But then who else are you throwing out? Is this the revenge game for Aaron Nesmith? Is this the Obi Toppin takes over? I don't see it.
You asked me, I'm rooting for the story, and I'm more interested.
The better story is Kyrie coming back.
It's not. To me, what Celtics fans bitching about Kyrie is not. I'm not that interested in that. I'm really not.
Full circle moment, though, isn't it?
Yeah, so go. But again, I'm not a Celtics fan, so it's like Kyrie Irving is one of the world's great putzes. We all know it. It's like this. The guy's an asshat. And
he has been a lot
and you don't
in
like
Dallas.
Him. But there's nowhere to go with that story. I got it.
Oh, there's lots of places to go. You can start to peel back some more stories about what happened with that team and what was it, the 18-19.
I'm sure it's as bad as we think, if not worse. I'm much more interested in a guy
like a purist then.
Anthony Edwards, who has a chance to go toe-to-toe with your best player, and I think the games are going to be more competitive. I think Minnesota has a much better chance than the Mavs have given you a series, which is what I want.
I agree.
So all those things is why I would root for Minnesota. But again, I'm not.
But if you're a Celtics fan, you want the easiest pathway to a championship, and if you can win a championship by going through Kyrie Irving, you don't think everybody in that building over the Garden would be ecstatic for that?
Okay, other than health, if the Celtics don't win a championship, if they don't beat Minnesota, it's because of what? Could coaching get in the way?
I think coaching could be a factor.
How good's Minnesota's coaching?
Chris Finch is really good.
Okay, go. So keep going.
I thought Chris Finch, after last year, if I had been the GM of Minnesota, I probably would have fired Chris Finch. I don't think Chris Finch was, going into this year, I didn't think he was equipped to coach a team with two bigs, Towns and Gobert. I thought his defenses in the past were kind of smoke and mirror type defenses, using a lot of switching, stuff like that. I would have fired him. Tim Conley, much smarter than I am, kept him around, and he has been a big reason why that team is successful. Look, I don't see too many reasons why the Celtics would lose. So, yeah, I'd probably throw – if they do, I would probably think coaching would have something to do with it.
Yeah, and tied into that was play style, which I think goes above Missoula. I think the organization has bought into the analytics of the three-point shot.
Well, so isn't Joe. That's Joe. Like, they built a team the way Joe wants to play, right? They bring Porzingis in because they want Joe shoots a bunch of threes.
I think they hired Joe because he'll coach it the way the analytics say that the game should be played.
I mean, it's the chicken and the egg kind of. Like,
that's why I put the chicken. The chicken's the nerds upstairs.
Yes.
Okay, you know what I mean?
Possible. But, like, Joe came up that way, right? Like, he was behind the bench for Brad when he started to do more of it. Behind the bench for Ime when he did a lot of it. So, like, whether you call it Joe's philosophy or the philosophy of the organization, I don't think it's kind of a distinction without a difference to me.
Okay, again, we've had a lot of people talking about, everyone seems to agree, if they don't win the championship, it's a fail. Agree or disagree?
Agree completely. It is a historic fail. Like, this is your chance. Look, I'm of the belief, and it's an unprovable fact, like if Tatum doesn't get hurt in the first play against Miami in Game 7, I think they win that game. Like, I just do. What happens against Denver, I don't know, but I think the end of that Miami series, I chalk some of that up to Tatum and his injury. But this year, look, I don't think Indiana is on this level. I just think the Celtics are on maybe 2 levels above Indiana. Then you get to the finals, and if it's Minnesota, talent-wise, I think they match up. They're a tough matchup, but experience does matter, and the Celtics have far more experience on that particular stage than Minnesota does. So if they don't win, it's a failure.
All right, Chris Mannix again joining us from Sports Illustrated, just back from Dubai. Saudi Arabia, where stunningly to me, Tyson Fury lost the undisputed heavyweight championship. You know, we've followed boxing a little bit on this program because we're big Deontay Wilder fans. And since Deontay Wilder has sort of fallen off, my attention...
I'm going back to Saudi in 2 weeks for a Deontay Wilder fight.
Okay, but stand by. So since Wilder has fallen off, I've sort of fallen off, I guess, with how diligently I've followed the heavyweight division. So I was stunned because I think Tyson Fury is an excellent all-time fighter. I think he is, like, in the pantheon. I think he's a top 10 heavyweight of all time, just to throw a number out there. I think he's that good. I really do. The size and the technical, you know, he's got fast hands for a guy that big, and he knows how to box. Like, I think he's an excellent heavyweight champion. Excellent. So the fact that he lost to me is a stunner, but it shouldn't be, you said.
Shouldn't be. I bet big on Alexander Usyk going into that fight. Usyk and plus 10.5. Great bet to make if you were go back in time.
Okay, how much size was he giving up in that fight?
Tyson's listed at 6'9". He's not. He's more like 6'6", 6'7", but 3.5 inches on fight night. 2 reasons I bet I thought Usyk was going to win. One, Fury historically does not like fighting smaller guys. When he came over to the U.S. in between Wilder 1 and Wilder 2, and he was fighting for Top Rank against lesser guys, no pressure, he told Top Rank, or his people told Top Rank, don't bring me small guys. Bring me tall guys to fight. So we fought Tom Schwartz, who's about 6'6". He fought Otto Wallin, who's about 6'6". His greatest triumphs up to this point have come against guys that have been eye level. Vladimir Klitschko, 2015, 3 fights against Deontay Wilder. Usyk is not only a smaller guy, he is a great smaller guy. He's an Olympic gold medalist, former cruiserweight undisputed champion, beat Anthony Joshua 2 times, and easily, cleanly, both those times. So I just thought it was a bad matchup for Tyson Fury. And even though he was up going into that 7th round, I have seen so much of Alexander Usyk coming back in the second half of fights. I just believed it was going to happen. 9th round, one of the best rounds I've ever seen in boxing.
Fury was against the ropes?
That was almost Tyson Burbick in a way, because Fury was bouncing all over the ring trying to stay on his feet. Eventually, the ropes held him up, and the referee, who I thought did a great job not waving off that fight, eventually called the knockdown. But one thing Usyk said going into that fight is that, Tyson, I will not leave you alone. I will be there all night. And that defined the fight. He was in Fury's face all night long, applying mental pressure, and eventually Fury folded.
So you think Usyk could be one of the greats of all time?
I think I wouldn't put him as an all-time great heavyweight because he's only got 6 heavyweight fights, but he is an all-time great fighter now, in my opinion. Look, in the 4-belt era, there's only been one guy who's been the undisputed cruiserweight champion and the undisputed heavyweight champion, and it's Alexander Usyk.
Who's Wilder fighting?
He is fighting Zheli Zhang, the Chinese heavyweight, which is kind of a winner-go-home fight for both those guys a week from Saturday over in Saudi.
Is Wilder going to get another shot at one of these?
What has happened to Wilder?
I mean, there's an argument to be made that Wilder wasn't a great fighter to begin with,
Yeah,
right?
no, he was just a big puncher.
Like, he was an Olympic bronze medalist, but that has much to do with size. And going into the Fury fights, like, what was his best win? Was it, like, Bermain Stavern, like, when he won the title? Like, he just fought a bunch of Luis Ortiz, who was, like,
I was going to say Ortiz.
45, 50 years old, maybe, when...
No, his best performance was the draw against Fury in the first fight.
But going into the Fury fights, I think it was Ortiz, those wins. So really, he had one quality win, over the course of his career leading into the Fury fights. He didn't win any of those Fury fights, and he was beat, pretty soundly.
I just liked him. He was fun.
He's great, and I wish that during his prime years, he was fighting better competition. I wish he had fought Fury years before that. I wish he had fought Vladimir Klitschko, and Klitschko was still around. But he had like a 5-year run where he was fighting kind of B and C level fighters. So we'll never really know if Deontay was a great fighter.
Hey, quickly, any other Americans on the radar anywhere?
So if Wilder wins this fight next Saturday, he is being ticketed to fight on the August 3rd Saudi Arabia in Los Angeles card against Jared Anderson, who is the undefeated heavyweight out of Toledo, Ohio, fights for Top Rank. Still relatively inexperienced, but he's like 16-17-0 with 15 knockouts on his resume. If Wilder wins, that is a good kind of crossroads type of fight with Anderson going up against him.
I want an American in there. All right, Chris.
Besides him, there's nobody.
All right. Thanks for coming by.
You got it.
Appreciate it, Chris Mannix.
See you, Chris.
Read him on Sports Illustrated. See him on NBC Sports Boston.